Welcome to Save Our Sleep, episode number 8. Now, when this goes to air, I was just trying to work it out, because episode 5 will go to air on Sunday, which is Mother's Day. And by the time this one goes to air, you might have had your baby.
I might have had the baba. Woohoo.
So we may or may not be having a baby in the house. Who knows?
I might be calling you from home instead of sitting in the studio in an absolute slumber.
Well,
or maybe I won't be. Maybe I'll be in here with Bubba because
I told you already, I'm having your baby. I'm taking it from you. In fact, I want you to move into my house.
I know you do.
Today, we're going to talk about, episode 8, we're going to talk about...
things affecting sleep and settling. So thanks to you, Tizzie. You've given us a beautiful chapter listing a bunch of different things that might affect your baby's ability to fall asleep or stay asleep. So can we... Maybe, would you like me to just go through the topics here today, or how are you feeling like you want to approach this topic?
I think we just go through the topics. So
number 1 you've got here is breast refusal, which is something that I think a very vast majority of mums come across at some stage. And I did with Otto, it was bottle refusal. And it probably had a different cause and a different effect.
So bottle refusal and breast refusal both would affect sleep and settling. So it's interesting that it's at the very start of the chapter because when you talk about sleep and settling, I would have thought we would have talked about other stuff first, but obviously that's where the publisher wanted it, so let's jump straight into it. So breast refusal. So when we talk about breast refusal, there can be lots of different reasons for it.
Yes.
It's when, your breast, when I think of breast refusal, I think of when you have a baby who's breastfeeding happily. So they're breastfeeding, only breastfeeding, not bottle feeding.
It's not a problem. Yep.
Breastfeeding happily. They have how many feeds a day, everything's going well. And then one day you get up and they just won't get on the breast. Now that can be for lots of reasons. It can be because they're sick. It can be, sometimes exercise can cause it. So, a vet once said to me about milk, you don't see cows running around the fields. In order to produce milk, we need to rest. And some mums will go out and do lots and lots of exercise. And then their babies don't get a good enough quantity of milk.
Yeah, sure.
They're babies for such a short amount of time. There's two thoughts there. Do you exercise to feel good about yourself and to feel... and exercise produces certain hormones that make people feel good.
Yeah, of course.
But then if you exercise to more than a light, short walk or a little swim, or not a short walk, a calm walk, not what's opposite to brisk, a slow walk, with your baby, not an exercise walk, not like a fast walk. What's the word we're looking for?
Stroll.
A stroll. So if you stroll with your baby, that's exercise. That's not going to affect your milk. But if you go out and do a fast walk or you run or you do,
sweating essentially.
You create this hormone which can actually be on your skin and stuff and the babies don't like it. And the taste of your milk can change. Now, you'll have to go to Dr. Google, which you're not really supposed to do, and look into it. But it can affect your baby. So if you always exercise and your baby always takes a breast and there's never an issue, don't worry about it. And if your baby sleeps really well at night and sleeps during the day, don't worry about exercise. You've got to remember the people that come to me are the people whose babies aren't sleeping. So I'm going to see the mums whose exercise and then it does affect the milk, not the mums who exercise and it doesn't, right? Yeah. So the first thing that can cause breast refusal, I would say, is starting exercise. Starting exercise, exercising, that can cause breast refusal because the taste of your milk can change, the texture, the quality of your milk can change. Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing is if a lot of mums mistakenly, when they go for the 6-week check, they often, get, what are you going to do for contraception? Now, I'm not medical, but my interpretation is that they think if you're breastfeeding, that gives you a certain amount of contraception, right? Then, if you take the mini pill, that gives you a certain amount of contraception. Neither gives you full contraception, right? So, but if you take them both, it's like they think 50% and
Right.
50% makes
Are they gonna add up
100%, or
perfectly?
maybe
Okay.
80% and 20%. But it might not add up perfectly. So even on the mini pill, or while breastfeeding, or on the mini pill and breastfeeding, you can still get pregnant.
Sure.
So I do not see the reason for taking the mini pill, because the mini pill, 6 weeks after taking the mini pill or getting an implant in your arm or having the coil fitted or whatever you choose, seems to cause babies to stop drinking your milk.
Wow.
Again, I don't see the mums who are on the mini pill
Sure.
and have no problems.
Of course,
Okay, so
yes.
I wouldn't go there. I think your babies are so little. Anyhow, who has time for the hanky-panky when you've got a newborn baby that you're breastfeeding
That is
at night?
the
Okay.
question.
But
Who has
you know,
energy
so
for that?
the mini pill contraception can cause breast refusal.
Right, yeah,
right?
okay,
So there.
yeah.
Now, what happens if you're having breast refusal? Things like viruses, if the mum's sick, can change your
Yes.
mum's milk, and
Right.
that can cause breast refusal. So what happens if you have breast refusal?
Yes.
Well, if you have breast refusal, it's very important that if your baby is totally refusing the breast, that you express, so that you keep up your milk supply.
Of course.
Because, and then you can't let your baby go too long without any breast milk. So you really need to contact the Australian Breastfeeding Association or your GP or a lactation consultant. If your baby is not feeding for more than 2 feeds in a row when you're on a routine, so if you get your baby up at 7 o'clock in the morning and your baby refuses to feed, now, if your baby fed at 5 o'clock in the morning,
Yep.
they would feed at 5 o'clock in the morning, their tummy would be empty. Yep. So let's say you've put your baby down, you've done a dream feed at 10:30, and now your baby has slept till 5 a.m. And you've picked your baby up at 5 a.m. and your baby's tummy is like empty at 5 a.m. and they fill their tummy till full, right? So you've breastfed them till full. You picture that baby waking up at 7 a.m. You're going to wake it. So you're going to wake that baby up at 7 a.m. for a feed, right? Now let's pretend you could see how much milk your baby got from the breast,
Yes.
right? So let's say your baby got 180 mils from the breast. One day, somebody is going to work out a way
Yes.
to measure the milk.
Yeah,
Someone's
I
going to,
bet you it won't be
they will.
far off,
Okay,
yeah.
so your baby takes 180 mils from the breast.
Yes.
Whatever, both, either, whatever, right? Then, at 7 a.m., your baby has only digested 50 mils because it's been asleep, right? And it's only digested 50 mils, right? At 7 a.m., your baby will, I would say, get your baby up at 7 and delay the feed a little bit towards the end of the feed time. So if you normally feed your baby at 7 a.m. and your baby finishes the feed at 7:25 a.m.,
Yep.
then start feeding your baby at like 7:15.
Okay, that's
If you normally get we're talking about a little baby, a
Sure.
baby like under 10 weeks,
Yep.
yeah? If you normally get your baby up at 7 a.m. and they finish feeding at 7:40 a.m., then I'd say start that feed at about 7:20 a.m., right?
Okay.
So then you would only expect your baby to take what's been digested.
That's
so
right.
that might be 50 or 60 mils. Now, this contradicts the fact that I say you should always have an empty tummy when you feed your baby, or you're going to put undigested milk in on top of digested milk.
Okay.
In these circumstances, this is about getting your baby sleeping through the night.
Sure.
It's about teaching your baby a routine.
Yeah.
It's about building your milk supply. It's okay.
And it's most
And
likely
once,
a 1 or 2 of, yeah.
and it's a once a day.
Yeah.
Okay, so then at 7:20, 7:40, whatever time when you finish the feed, your baby is as full as they would have been if you had if you hadn't fed at
Yep.
5 a.m.
And you go
and they'd
to
had a
full
full 180 mils
Yes.
at 7 a.m.
Yep.
So a lot of people worry and they think, oh, well, my baby fed at 5 a.m. and then it only took a couple of minutes, or it only took 50 mils at 7. It's going to be starving by 11. No, because it's as full as it was. Right, okay?
Yeah.
So now, but if your baby refused the feed at 7 a.m.,
Yes.
we'd say, okay, try and get to 11 a.m. But if your baby refused to feed at 11 a.m., now with 7 a.m., if your baby refuses to feed, once off, try and express, even if you have to hand express, okay? If you cannot get to 11 because you're engorged or you're uncomfortable, maybe get your baby up early from their sleep and feed them. It's a once off. If you can get to 11, So first of all, I would try and express the 7 a.m. feed. If you cannot express the 7 a.m. feed, try and get as close to 11 as you can. If you can't get to 11, feed your baby early. If you get to 11 and your baby refuses to feed, you need to seek medical advice.
Sure.
You need to work out why your baby's refusing the feeds. If you know that you got your period the day before, or if you feel you've got a bit of spotting and you're going to get your period, I call them painters. And the kids are doing sex education at school. Sorry to go off subject.
Good.
No, they've coming home with all this stuff,
Yes.
including talking about that.
Yes.
And it's like Nathan is learning all these words and he keeps saying stuff. And I'm thinking, can you stop already? I've never been comfortable talking about stuff like that. I went to an all-girls school. And it's really kind of upsetting me. And then I said to Nathan, he's going, I think you're getting your period. And then I'm going, we've been married. I don't know, we've been together forever.
Yeah.
He's never. And I said to him, I don't even call it that. I call it the painters. And why are you... And then a few days later he said to me something about the painters. I was just like,
Oh, wow, it's really absorbing.
no,
all
it's
this
all
stuff.
it's all the school. Anyway, so if you know that you're about to get your painters or you got your painters the day before...
Yes. That can affect it too.
then
I
you
read
know why,
that.
but you
Yeah.
still can't just say, oh, that's why my baby's not feeding. I'm just going to ignore the fact that my baby's not feeding.
Sure.
If your baby
get
isn't
on top
feeding,
of
there
it.
could be something wrong with the baby
Sure.
as well.
Yeah.
So you need to talk to your GP, lactation consultant,
Yeah.
even nurse on call. Work out
Yeah.
why baby isn't feeding,
Yeah,
you know?
definitely.
That's important.
And can I just say too, don't go straight into stress mode, because baby might miss 2 feeds for some reason. They're just not well, they're getting a cold or something like that. And then the 3rd attempt, they're back to normal. So babies can pick up on your energy
Exactly.
and so can your breast milk, I suspect, and production of, and so can everyone else in your family. So it's so hard when you're a new mother. You are so in that moment that you feel like whatever is happening now is going to happen for the next 2 years. Your baby's never going to feed again.
There's a real
Yeah.
balancing act between sitting back and waiting and seeing what happens and actually responding and running to the GP
Sure.
and getting medical
Yeah.
help.
Yeah.
It would depend on the age of your baby. It
Yeah.
would depend on, of course, take your baby's temperature.
Yeah.
It would depend on the age of the baby. It would depend on the size of your baby. It would
Yes.
depend on, wet nappies. There is all this other stuff, but if you call nurse and call, they'll say, when did your baby last feed? Did they feed during the night? Have they got
They'll
wet
ask
nappies?
about wet nappies.
Wet
and that sort of
nappies.
thing.
How you know if your baby has a wet nappy, especially, I use Pampers nappies. It's the only nappies I use. You can never tell if they're wet. I say use Pampers. You only have to change them once in 24 hours.
Okay.
And I don't normally promote or mention products, and you can't really get them in Australia. But, I like the idea of using environmentally friendly nappies.
Yes.
As a working mum, loved the idea, tried to do it. Was out of my
I'm
or-
attempting this.
I'll
I'll be
attempt
attempting it
and
this
then
one. Yeah.
but then it's
But
then
not exclusively. I think overnight I'll be using just.
but then you've got the whole washing machine, water. In London they used to come and pick them up. You'd put your disposable nappies on the doorstep, and it's that's a whole topic, and we won't go
It
off
is.
on the.
But just quickly, if you're only changing once every 24 hours, that's a pretty good. That's a pretty eco-friendly nappy there.
back to
Yes.
nappy. Wet.
And stressing about.
Has your baby wet the nappy? The easiest thing to do is,
yes.
maybe this is how you tell how much breast milk went in.
Yeah.
You take the dry nappy and put it on the kitchen scales.
Anyway.
In a okay, so let's put a dry nappy in a sterile plastic bag on the kitchen scales, and then let's put a taken off the baby nappy that doesn't look wet at all.
Yep.
In a sterile plastic bag
Great idea.
on the kitchen scales.
Great
Talking
idea.
of sterile plastic bags, did you know this? Here's a tip,
Yes.
okay? So when I was in special care baby unit and I was expressing and I was going out and buying special baby bottle sealed bags for breast milk,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
They said to me, oh, don't go out and buy special ones. Just go to the supermarket. All the plastic bags that come in a cardboard box in the supermarket are sterile.
Well, because
So-
you put food in them. So
Yeah,
that makes
and
a
so
bit of
you don't
sense.
need to go and buy special baby ones. And then the other tip they gave me was, so the snap-lock bags.
Yes.
So you can buy the little snap-lock bags
Yes.
at the
Yes, you can. Everywhere.
supermarket.
Yes.
You don't need to know how much is in them, because when you take it out of the bottle that you've just expressed
Yes.
and you put it in the snap-lock bag, well, actually, hold on, let's wind back. Look at the 30 mils in the bottle, or the
Sure.
50 or the gallon that I got, because I'm a dairy cow. Put it in the snap-lock bag. No, sorry. write on the Snaplock bag how much you're putting in before you put it in the bag. Yep. Otherwise, you can't write it.
Makes sense.
Then, did you know if you store them flat, so it works so much better in your freezer?
Of course
if you put all these bags like this, and I always double bag just in case they got a hole.
Yeah. Love it.
So there's a Snaplock bag tip with breastfeeding.
Thank you for that, Tizzie Hall. With the
Now,
little tips there. We're not going to get through this whole chapter.
No, of course we're not. We're doing topics.
Yep.
We're not planning to get through the whole chapter. We're planning to... If we were going to get through the whole chapter, we would sit here and we would read the chapter from start to finish.
Yeah.
The idea of the podcast is to help mums with older children, help mums with younger children, talk at the beginning, which gives people insight with older children, and to dig into behind the topics in the book. Now, I'm just looking to see what Tizzie Hall says. Something about, if your breast milk comes 48 hours, if your painters come, it takes for the milk to come good. But right, let's move on to winding.
All right.
We have, I think, 2 different tales of thought on winding.
Well, no, I'm very, very intrigued. So my sister-in-law recently had a beautiful girl, and she was advised by her midwife or her maternal child health nurse not to bother winding. I had the very quickest little Google this morning before I came into record today, and there were some studies showing, and I think they were from around 2019, not so much showing that you don't have to, but that there's some studies saying there's no reason why a baby can't burp on their own, same as you and I. And in particular, there was no difference in one study between a burped baby and a not burped baby, and them, getting, I hate that word, developing colic, which is, of course,
But so you see, my argument would be, is that a baby on a routine or a baby not on a routine? Is that a baby who's bottle fed? Is that a baby who's breastfed?
There's so many factors.
Did they get all of these, is it the same baby? And then how do they know? How do these, you can get studies to kind of tell you anything, because how does the baby, are all the babies lying down flat after a feed, or all the babies breastfeeding in the same position? Yeah. So what we know about wind is, how a baby, I don't know, can I show you with we can't show you with a bottle, but we can maybe show our YouTubers with a bottle. But the baby, it's not like, you don't have your stomach, and then if you picture the stomach, and then you don't have a tube coming straight up, and it's like if you get all these bubbles in the stomach, right? And then all the bubbles aren't going to sit at the top, and then they're not going to go up the tube and the burp comes up, because that's not the shape of the stomach. There's a tube that goes down into the stomach, and I'm trying to describe it in a way that people listening will understand. But if you Google the shape of the stomach, there's what's the tube? The esophagus comes down into the stomach, and then the esophagus doesn't come into the top of the stomach. It sort of comes in, and the stomach bulges up the side of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the wind can go up and be up the side of the tummy. So if you're holding your baby dead straight, or your baby's flat on their back, the wind is the bubbles. So the wind is bubbles that they've taken while they're feeding, right? So those bubbles can go up and be in that kind of bubble at the top of the stomach. Then no matter how much you sit there and tap the baby's back, and they're never going to come up because you've got the baby straight. Okay. So I get my clients to put the baby down flat and then slowly lift the baby. So a lot of people will say, my baby was in bed, they were crying, I went in and I picked them up and they did a big burp. Well, that big burp's not why they were crying. The big burp is because you've moved them from lying down to up, and as you've moved them from lying down to up, that bubbles have moved from that corner bubbly bit to and come up through the tube. So when I get my clients to put the baby down flat and then slowly lift the baby up, and as they slowly lift the baby up, the air moves, and then the air will come up the little pipe, the esophagus. I think there's a thing called wobbly baby, or we'll put a link to it at the end of this podcast. We'll put a link to a really good video a woman does on, I think, the wobbly baby it's called, and it teaches you about the stomach and the gas. So I over the years, people have said, this doesn't affect, that doesn't affect. We come back to the same thing. People come to me with a baby that's unsettled and crying with colic. So the second topic in this book here is colic, and the second in the chapter, and we'll talk about that now as well. So people come to me with a baby with colic. Now, what is colic? Colic is the name given to a baby who cries for a very long time at night time, maybe from 6 till 8 o'clock or 7 till 10 or 11 o'clock, and they cry and cry and cry and cry, and nothing will settle them, right? That's what we give the name colic to. Colic is babies crying uncontrollably. Now, somebody will come to me with a baby where they say the baby has colic and is crying uncontrollably, and I will teach them to breastfeed their baby and take their baby off every 3 minutes and wind their baby, and then when they're getting a burp up, and keep burping until the burp comes up, and then when you're getting them up when your baby's happy and settled and the colic has disappeared, you can start doing 4 minutes or 5 minutes, and if the colic doesn't come back, that's good, but if it comes back, go back to the 4 minutes. Now, that's breastfeeding every 3 minutes. Bottle feeding, it's off after every 30 minutes. Now, if you've got a very hungry baby and you're breastfeeding them or you're bottle feeding them and you take them off to burp them, they're going to cry. But you are better to have a crying baby for that short amount of time during the feed than a baby crying for an hour or 2 or 3 hours when you are exhausted at the end of the day, right? So when people come to me with this, I get them to burp the baby more. I believe you get this build-up of wind at 7 o'clock in the morning, and if you don't get it all out, there's more wind by 11 o'clock, and if you don't get it all out, there's more wind by the 3 o'clock feed, and so on. And by 7 o'clock at night, the tummy is so full of wind that the baby is starving hungry, but there isn't enough room for food. Now, if winding wasn't needed, then why would it fix the babies? And we've got the Save Our Sleep support group, and we keep telling people, if you come, the support group, I used to charge for the support group. I used to charge a fee to give my advice. Now, if you come to the website and you purchase the Save Our Sleep bedding, because that's the root, and we're going to do a special bonus episode called the Bedding Guide. That's the foundation. If you have the correct bedding, then the routines should work. So you come to the website, you purchase all the correct bedding, and free with the bedding, like servicing of a car, you get the free support group.
Which is the best group in the whole wide world.
Okay, so you've got your free support group where we give you complimentary advice. Women, mums in there, including yourself, tell people, try burping the baby, and they do, and they go from having an unsettled baby to having a happy baby. So how can people say you do not need to wind? I don't understand. So back to winding, the best way to do it is to have your baby flat. I kind of hold the baby over my hands and tap the back. There is a video on YouTube, Tizzie winding a baby.
Oh, great.
We'll link to it. You wind, and then I will lift the baby up, and when you lift the baby up and then sit them upright, the burp normally comes out. And I don't give up. Or lie them down over your knees, tap their back, and then lift them up. How do you wind twins if you're feeding them at the same time?
Honestly, it was such a blur. I don't remember it, but I do remember Luke and I, any parent that we ran into in the street, we would just beg them, when do we stop winding? Because it just felt like a never-ending task of feeding and winding these babies. It was tricky.
And a couple of it would be. I can't imagine how you would do two at once, because some mums tandem feed. Like my sister-in-law used my routines from day one. She had twins. She carried them full term. She breastfed them both totally. Amazing. And then people say, oh, you can't follow Tizzie's breastfeeding advice because the breastfeeding, your milk will dry up. Oh, she is a miracle worker.
Oh,
she breastfed both her babies from day one in hospital. They didn't go in special care, following my advice. I'm just so proud of her, and I think she just proved that the routines work. And she breastfed them both till really late, like 18 months or something. No formula. She gave them no formula. Well, not that I'm not against formula, but she didn't want to give them formula, and I think she gave them no formula as far as I remember.
Fantastic.
So it just, and it was really good. I'm really proud of her for doing it. Nathan's brother's wife had twins. I never got twins, but she got twins. So another quick topics, just while we're on the same topic, hiccups. So I think hiccups, babies don't worry about hiccups. Kieran calls them haircups. He's 7 and he still calls them haircups, and I can't correct him because I love it. Mummy, I've got haircups. And he gets a bit of reflux and he calls it hair cups. Mummy, the hair cups were hurting me.
Aw.
But hiccups don't seem to do babies any harm. All babies get them.
My baby
I
gets
think it's a
them
sign that they're
already.
full.
Yeah, okay.
So, yeah, they get them in the womb. You should
Yes.
time when they get them in the womb and see if they get them when they're out. That would be a good thing. You could do
Yes.
everything I wanted to do.
I'm going to
And then the
we're
other
gonna
one
have a
is
little
positing
experiment
and
baby.
vomiting. So if
Right.
you don't wind a baby, this is the other thing about winding. If you don't wind a baby, the wind can come up so fast that it just throws all of the milk up ahead of the
Yes,
wind,
yes.
and that can be a projectile vomit or a little vomit, yeah? And that can be from not winding your baby enough. You have all babies, okay, so with babies, it's normal for a baby to feed. Their esophagus, there's a little bit that's not closed over with babies. It's normal for your babies to bring up a little bit of milk. That's normal. They're not made the same way as us. That's not closed over. A little bit of milk is normal. You get my burpers to put onto their head in their cot. I get annoyed with bedding, like sheet sets that have got pillowcases because you're not supposed to put a pillow in the
course,
cot.
yeah.
And then you can't put the pillow slip in because it's got a hole in it and the baby could put it over their head when they're older.
right.
Or if they get attached to it, it can be a problem.
Yeah.
So I've just got like fronts of pillowcases called burpers.
Yeah.
You put them in the cot. Little posits are normal and expected. If you are breast or bottle feeding your baby and you're getting a lot of projectile vomits, which is not common, but 1 in 300 babies will overeat and projectile vomit,
Okay.
I would try cutting the time back of the feed, like
Yes.
cut back how much you're feeding them or cut back the amount you're giving them in their bottle, which contradicts the fact that I say when you're bottle feeding a baby, always, 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 one, make sure the milk is really hot because hot milk, someone said to me recently, the reason for it is cold milk cools their whole body temperature down. If your baby is a certain temperature and then you put in 200 mils of room temperature milk at 20 degrees, you're going to cool them right down. They
point.
become
Yeah.
unsettled. They need warm milk, body temperature milk.
Apparently, adults should only drink warm drinks as well.
Water as well.
Yes.
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 So,
So warm milk, and
Yep.
then if they are, and I say always leave 30 mils of express breast milk or formula. Always leave 1 ounce of express breast milk or formula in the bottle at the end of the feed. Not if they are projectile vomiting. Then we need to cut it back and see if that helps. If it doesn't help, you need to seek medical advice. If they're constantly projectile vomiting at feeds, you need to seek medical advice. Right.